And now I'd like to introduce Vice President of Operations for Cornerstone Merchant Services, Julio Rendon.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to get some good knowledge on kind of what's rolling out on October 1st. Many of you probably are aware of the EMV Compliance or are aware of Apple Pay as it's known today. What I want to do first is just kind of tell you a little bit about who Cornerstone is and how we were selected to become a benefit member for the Chamber, benefit provider for the Chamber members. The Chamber set out an RFP for the actual account, asking for a company to provide an added value package for the members. I thought it was a perfect time frame for with EMV coming out to offer a good package to kind of kill two birds with one stone, offer better pricing, better servicing, and also get them into the new age of processing. Just to go a little bit about what Cornerstone has to offer, we do service about 20,000 clients nationwide. We are an end-line processor. When we say end-line processor, that means we're direct with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. And then when we also rank 22 amongst all credit card processors in the nation. Our values at Cornerstone are customer service and the customer always being first. One of the things I think that speaks volumes about Cornerstone is we're completely contractless. Everything is month to month. We want to align ourselves with the business and work with you to offer a great package and some security to your customers. And that's kind of how we do things. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the next slide and jump right into EMV Compliance. Please note that this will be a little bit, may seem a little bit of information overload. Please write those questions down. I'm going to be opening it up for a Q&A at the end of the webinar. I do expect a lot of good questions, so definitely keep those in mind. Just to start off here with what is EMV Compliance. EMV stands for EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa. These are the two organizations, EuroPay and MasterCard and Visa, that have created and have started this guideline or this requirement with the hopes to reduce fraudulent activity or erroneous chargebacks and whatnot. The technology has been started out in Europe. They've been doing it for about 10 to 15 years now, and it's reduced their fraudulent and chargebacks significantly, about 60%, just by rolling out the new technology. It did take Europe a little bit of time to get to where they are now. I know Canada has done it for about 5 years now. They are finally getting into that mode where now everyone is aware of EMV. So please be aware that we do have this October 1st deadline coming out for customers, for merchants to be compliant to accept those EMV cards. But please note that it is, it's not a requirement. It's just a security provision that we strongly recommend that you do undertake. One of the things I definitely wanted to stress with EMV on this slide, not every single merchant account is umbrellaed under EMV. EMV only encompasses retail brick-and-mortar stores. So if you process payments on a website, if you have a call center where you key things in, EMV only is going to affect retail stores where they can take advantage of a card-present transaction where you can swipe things. Moving forward and kind of to our next slide, I'm going to go through a couple of different scenarios, not scenarios, but a couple of different methods of how EMV exists and kind of what's out there now. EMV encompasses Apple Pay and RFID technology as well as NFC technology. As you'll see, that first one that says Contact EMV, that's the regular microchip on the card, which many of you may already have, where you'll slide into the credit card machine and it'll run it kind of just like if they were to swipe the card. There's another one where the second slide there was a contactless EMV. That basically is you'll see kind of a volume sign on your card where you can tap it on a credit card machine and it'll run the payment that way. Or you have the second form, which is you'll probably already have heard, the Apple Pay and the Google Wallet. That's where you can upload your credit card onto your application and able to process them using the RFID technology that the EMV encompasses as well. So just to kind of let you know, I just wanted to make it very clear that Apple Pay and EMV, the microchip, the little square chip you see on the card, is the exact same thing and is the exact same compliance. So as they make you as your processor, as Cornerstone makes you EMV compliant, they're also going to make you Apple Pay compliant. One thing I wanted to definitely stress is EMV does exist, but is not being used as of right now. There's a couple different issues with the encryptions and certifications on the rollout of EMV. Quite honestly, the rollout of EMV is a little bit convoluted, and honestly, the best word I used yesterday in another presentation was completely sloppy. What Visa, MasterCard, American Express has done, they've released a date for compliance, and nothing is complete on the back end for encryptions for people to actually process EMV payments. There's a couple different ways we can get around it, and if you contact Cornerstone, if you're having issues with actually taking chip cards, and you are presented to, if your company's told you that you're set up that way, give us a call and I'll let you know how we can get your credit card, or at least machine, to work as EMV. There's some new requirements that just were released last week that a lot of people aren't aware of when it comes to programming and things like that. We're going to move into the next slide, and then we're going to go into kind of the methodologies in which the cards, how the transactions are going to work. So when you what they're envisioning, Visa, MasterCard, American Express right now, is they want to have a dual authentication method at the point of transaction. Just kind of like perfect example, the PIN-based debit transaction, where you can swipe it. That's one form of authentication that the card was there. The second form of authentication is actually you putting your PIN number in. What they're trying to get to, and it's going to go in a couple different phases with EMV compliance, is the first phase is going to be they're going to take the microchip, and it's probably going to be a signature. So you're going to put in the chip. They're going to give you this receipt, and they're going to make you sign it just like you do it today. Within the next year, what they're going to introduce for every single type of credit card, no matter if it's a debit card, a credit card, whatever it might be, as long as it has a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover logo on the front of it, it will have a PIN number attached to it. So that's where they're getting away with the dual form of authentication. The way Apple Pay is getting away with a dual form of authentication is using the NFC technology of the phone with the contact list, and also the fingerprint in order to process, to use the credit card that's actually saved on the application. So it's going to be a couple different phases of how you're going to be able to use that credit card. I will definitely recommend, just as a consumer, to contact your bank, figure out how they're going to go ahead and implement a PIN number, how you can set up a PIN number. You definitely want to put yourself as a consumer, or even as a merchant, be the first to be in a position of power, whether you're a merchant to get your machine that's compliant, or even a consumer to get your credit card that is compliant. You definitely want to be on the side of less liability. Going into the next slide here, we're going to kind of go into what's happening as of October 1st and kind of what the October 1st liability shift may mean to a lot of businesses. What's happening as of October 1st is that no card issuer, that's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, any company that issues credit cards will no longer assume any financial risk for any type of credit card transaction, no matter if it's a legitimate, illegitimate, fraudulent, stolen credit card. They will no longer take any financial risk on those type of transactions. The way they are assessing risk is the person that's going to win, or the party that's going to win that claim or chargeback or dispute, is going to be the party that had the highest level of security. So if you were to walk into a store that did not have an EMV credit card machine, but the customer comes in with an EMV card, that scenario, if the customer accepts the payment and they swipe the card, it being an EMV card, that person can walk out the store, say they lost their card, and charge back that, and they will win just because the business was presented with an EMV card and the business was unable to take that card. So what they're doing is they're making the business owners assess their own risk at this point in time, basically saying either they're going to assess their own risk, or they're going to go ahead and upgrade their credit card machines and process payments the right way. So what I wanted to do kind of in the next slide, I know I'm probably bringing up a lot of questions. Definitely write all those questions down, and definitely be addressing everything at the end of the meeting. I wanted to go into the next slide and kind of address a little bit of the scenarios of kind of a dispute and a chargeback. As you can see, the first scenario here is the scenario that we're currently in now. I walk into a store, and the financial institution is holding the bag of liability here. You see Mr. Joe here walks into an institution. The liability right now, the way the scenario exists, is the institution holds the full liability. If you were to, well, no, we probably all had fraudulent credit card transactions in the past. And what tends to happen is you probably are contacted by your bank, or you contact your bank. The bank returns the money to you, or your Capital One, or whoever it might be returns the money to you, and you probably don't know anything about it. You're pretty much good to go. The thing is that there's a person on the other side who's actually taking care of that, whether it's the bank or the merchant. Jumping into the second scenario here is a business who's actually EMV ready and EMV compliant, and the actual customer does not have an EMV chip in their pocket. If they were to walk into that business and swipe their credit card at an EMV compliant business, what's going to happen at that point, if that person were to go and say they weren't happy with the services or they weren't happy with the product, there's no chargeback capability on a transaction that happened at an EMV location, and that credit card was not an EMV card. So just to let you know, and then going into our third scenario, these are people, the business is EMV compliant and the customer is EMV compliant. Now, if there's a chargeback or dispute on that transaction, that goes up into arbitration. Now, each party gets to prove their case on each side, kind of what we're in today. So what they're trying to do is this has reduced fraudulent transactions and chargebacks about 60% since they've introduced it in Europe, and that's kind of what we're trying to get into now is reduce the form of chargeback. I think with more security and more technology involved, they'll probably deter some of those blatant chargebackers that exist out there. I want to jump into the next slide here and go into kind of the stats and kind of some information that we've gotten from Visa, which is a little bit mind-boggling to think that they did a survey that 47% of merchants are prepared for the EMV rollout today, meaning they have a credit card machine, their bank or their institution has let them know what to be concerned about, and the merchant companies have made them either EMV compliant. Another staggering stats here on the other side, we know that 71% of credit cards right now, as of today, or as of October 1st, will have an EMV chip on them. So there's a percentage of cards out there that do not. I would suggest if you do not have one in your wallet, and definitely contact your bank. I know that I just got my card from my bank. I had a fraudulent transaction done. They issued me a new card, and my card did not come with a microchip. Thank God I work in the industry and I understood that I need one. I contacted the bank and let them know why did I not receive a microchip. They told me that is upon request, and they issued me a new card at that point in time. So the banks, as much as the credit card companies are pretty much at the mercy of the credit card issuers, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, to let us know what the encryptions are going to be to prepare our customers for what's out there now. I want to just jump into kind of the next slide here. What merchants can do to avoid the liability shift, and it's not really just merchants, but what can a consumer do on the other side? Us as people buying things, not as business owners, what can we do to make ourselves compliant? Contact your bank. Make sure you get yourself an EMV card. Make sure they've been doing it for years. If you tell them you're going to Europe, they're going to issue you an EMV card anyways. Make sure you tell them that you want a PIN number associated with that EMV card, so when you are presented with an EMV type of transaction, you are the one that's the most secure and not in a position of assuming more liability or in a position of disadvantage. For merchants, the next big thing is definitely upgrade your equipment. It's a cost. Sometimes it could be a costly thing to do, but most times the chargeback and the time spent on fighting disputes and attorney fees can be a little bit more expensive than just upgrading the equipment. I think the biggest complaint is just the time spent on these disputes and the proving your case and things like that. And I think the asset more important to us is probably our time. We can definitely never get that back. So we want to definitely avoid as much things as possible. Put yourself in a position of power. Get your credit card machine that's EMV compliant, Apple Pay compliant, and then as a consumer, get your credit card that's compliant. So just ways on how we got here, as we said. Sorry about that. Kind of going in and kind of the timeline of how the Las Vegas Metro Chamber selected Cornerstone to become their their service provider and whatnot. Like I said, we sent it out. They sent it out for an RFP, and we were selected after a hard look on the benefit package we can offer. I think the chamber understood the value and how to assist their members on making them compliant, and negotiated a really good program that we're going to definitely outline into the next slide. So if you're definitely a chamber member, the program, the benefit is outlined this way. What Cornerstone promises and the benefit includes is we're going to definitely, we will meet or beat your processing rate that you currently have now. We definitely guarantee the best price always first. We do a free price comparison. We will ask for merchants that are currently processing elsewhere, provide us a copy of a merchant statement. What we want to see is the type of credit cards that you're bringing in, so we can give you an apples-for-apples snapshot of what it would have been if you were with Cornerstone that month, so you can make a good assessment on how much is being saved, and whether you want to go ahead and make the change. For all new and existing chamber members, eligibility stands. Any good standing chamber member is eligible for a rate comparison, a drop in fees, and the benefit program. For a free credit card machine, for members that need a free credit card machine and are concerned of how much it's going to cost, we're providing the credit card machine at no cost, free to the Las Vegas Metro Chamber, and that's going to be a fully Apple Pay EMV compliant credit card machine, fully installed, and we'll definitely train the staff on how to ask for those credit cards. For members that do not process over $20,000 a month, I definitely want to stress we did set up a price for the credit card machine. We're offering it at $295. We are offering it in 3 payments. It ends up being about $100 a month for 3 months, and you're EMV compliant at that point in time. But definitely, if you process anywhere about $20,000 a month, we will provide the credit card free of cost. And for every $20,000 increment, we can provide a credit card machine. So if you process $80,000 and need 4 credit card machines, we will provide 4 credit card machines for you at no cost. Kind of moving into the next slide, definitely have my email address down there. If you have any questions or want the presentation for your usage, definitely email me. I'll be more than happy to email that over to any of the people here on the webinar. And then I definitely want to open it up for questions. I'll pass it over to Danica so she can start the question and answer, and we'll go from there.
Great. We have a couple of questions. Someone commented, you mentioned you're a direct line processor, but your website says you're an ISO MSP, and it looks like your sponsor bank would be Wells Fargo, and the actual direct line processor would be First Data. If you can explain that.
Absolutely, absolutely. What First Data has done for us is basically given us the portals for us to process on certain platforms whenever we definitely do need to do so. When I say we're an online processor, is that we're getting the same pricing as Visa, MasterCard, First Data, the banks or whatnot. The reason we have to place Wells Fargo on our bank is because we are a registered ISO. That means we have to put there's a couple of banks that processors need to choose in order to process their funds to the IRS. We definitely have to choose an institution, and the institution we hold our money in is Wells Fargo.
Next question. I have read that EMV uses a random encryption code, and the card must stay in the reader until the transaction is completed. How does the tap feature override this function?
The tap feature, basically the tap feature is it's kind of Apple Pay. Apple Pay is the tap feature. What most cards are going away, if it has a microchip on it, most cards will not have the tap feature. So I just want to let you know it's 2 different microchips that are on the card if you do have the tap feature. It's 2 different microchips. They're going away from the NFC, and they're leaving that only to electronic devices. So in your situation, yes, the biggest complaint is that you slide the card in, and it takes about 15 seconds for it to process the payment. Most merchants have a problem on the longevity, how long that process is taking. Right now, if you swipe, it takes about 3 seconds to process the transaction, and it's taken right now anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds to process this EMV transaction.
How about transactions that were done with stored tokenization after installing an EMV compliant reader, such as mailing transactions at the customer's request?
I'm not sure if if you want to read that one more time for me, where we have that?
Transactions that were done with stored tokenization after installing an EMV compliant reader.
I'm not sure if I understand that correctly. I'm not sure who's asking that question, but if you want to probably take my phone number, we can take that offline. I definitely want to ask you a couple more questions. I can take it in a couple different ways. I'm just not sure if I'm understanding it correctly.
Will Cornerstone work with my POS system and be able to use SIGIS to determine flexible spending account eligible items?
Yeah, Cornerstone can integrate with about 99% of different softwares, shopping carts or whatnot out there. We actually have our own payment gateway that we've coded and developed to integrate with any type of software out there. And the reason I say 99% is there's always new products being developed, and we're always catching up for those new things coming out. But if you definitely go to our website, you'll see our payment gateway, and it'll give you a laundry list of every shopping cart or invoicing software that we currently are working with and integrated with.
How quickly can Cornerstone get me set up with EMV equipment? Will you make the October 1st deadline?
Definitely. From the time we get some paperwork filled out to get you set up for EMV, we can get you set up from anywhere from 5 to 7 business days. And when I say that, we can possibly get you done within maybe 2 to 3 days. I always like to say 5 to 7 business days. Some accounts are a little bit tricky when it comes to websites, depending on the risk involved in those transactions. But anywhere from 5 to 7 business days, we can get you up and running and set up.
You said no one is ready. No one is ready for EMV or Apple Pay, but my machine through my bank has been accepting EMV and Apple Pay for several months. Is this limited to certain processors?
It is limited to certain platforms, and the best example I can give is that in credit card processing, imagine you have Windows and then you have Apple. Those are the two separate platforms. In credit card processing, there's about 20 different platforms that data can be transmitted in. And right now the issue is that there's certain platforms being certified before others. I know that First Data themselves have about 6 different platforms just under them. There's about Payment Tech has a couple different, there's a couple different other platforms, and they're all different forms of technology and how that data is being transmitted. Some of the encryptions are a little bit easier, some of the encryptions are a little bit convoluted. So there's some platforms that are currently done and some platforms that aren't. But as of October 1st, we're definitely scrambling right now. I definitely foresee that every single platform should be good by October 1st.
Before we move on to the next question, I just want to remind everyone, if you are raising your hand or if you don't have the web component, you can always press *7 on your phone to unmute your line. I'll be able to see that, and we can take your questions after I have finished the chat questions. Nonprofit representative here. We use those squares on iPads to process ticket sales for our fundraising events. What kind of equipment could help us replace those EMV non-compliant squares?
You can give Cornerstone a ring. We have our actual mobile swiper that has just been certified. Unfortunately, they are on back order from the manufacturer. I'm still waiting for them to come on in. But we definitely have swipers that we can set you up on applications that get you in compliancy and definitely won't change your process too much. So definitely go to the Chamber website, go to the perks and discounts. Go ahead and click on Cornerstone, and we'll definitely reach out to you and take care of your concern.
And it looks like we have an audio question if somebody would like to ask their question.
Yes. How do you handle over-the-phone orders and payments where the card's not present, and where's the liability for those?
Great question, sir. The liability for keyed-in transactions has not changed. The liability is not going to change. Remember, EMV compliance only encompasses face-to-face card-present transactions. So the risk involved in website transactions, in call center transactions, has not changed and will not change. Those are still higher risk because the card is definitely not present. Those are definitely not encompassed in the EMV guidelines. So if you are running your business that way and more than 90% of your transactions are keyed in, EMV is not of your concern. You should definitely be aware as a consumer to get your EMV card, but it definitely won't affect your business.
And then I use a swiper on my phone. Will these be compliant?
Depending on the type of swiper, like I said, I know that depending on the type of manufacturer, it's all trying to be certified right now. I know ours have been certified. give me a call. Let me know what you're working on. Like I said, go to the Chamber website, fill out the form there on the site, and we'll have a specialist from Cornerstone give you a call and assess your situation and see how we can get you compliant.
Well, it looks like if there's no more questions, we have one more question. If my processing volume drops below 20,000 at some point, do I have to pay for the free machine? And also, is there a contract termination fee or other way I would be charged for the machine or account if I choose to leave?
Nope. As long as you return the credit card machine back to Cornerstone, we would just take that on back. There's no contract or no cancellation fee for Cornerstone whatsoever. If you go on our website, that's exactly what we promote. If your processing does drop for $20,000, usually we are not stuck on the $20,000 mark. If you're anywhere near $20,000, if you process 16, 17, we will definitely get you the credit card machine. You don't necessarily have to process 20. That's just kind of borderline there. But what we do is we just kind of want to see an average. If you've been processing 20 for the last year, that should be fine. Like I said, we're not stuck on that number. That's just kind of a barometer for us. If you process anywhere from 10 to 20, it should be fine. We will provide that at no cost. And then if you do choose to leave Cornerstone at any point in time, just provide the credit card machine back to Cornerstone, and there'll be no charge or anything for the credit card machine at all.
If processing drops below, the machine is returned?
No. If processing drops, unfortunately, we don't want that to happen, of course. But it's unforeseeable how your business may happen, and we all have dips and valleys. So no, if you're processing 20 and it drops, that is not a concern for us. As long as, like I said, as long as you're processing, you should be good to go. We will still provide the credit card machine at no cost.
So I think someone is referring to the tokenization question. The card not present question is essentially what I was asking about. If we do those transactions, are we completely liable for the change back even if the card information is stored using an EMV machine?
If you were using an EMV machine, it's going to record that transaction as a card present transaction. So you will not hold the liability for that transaction if it was taken as an EMV transaction, because if you're telling me it was taken as an EMV transaction, that means the card was there. So it was a card present, not a card not present. Does that answer the question?
Hopefully it answers your question for today. Unfortunately, we are out of time. We got full 30 minutes worth of EMV compliance. So I want to take this time to thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank Julio and Cornerstone Merchant Services for the presentation. Just a quick reminder, if you're interested in coming to more of these Chamber University sessions, our next session is on Friday, September 25th at 10 a.m., where you can get information about protecting your business in the event of a disaster. You can find all of our upcoming webinars at lvchamber.com. You'll also be able to find this webinar in the members-only portal on the Chamber's website. If you need information, you can also call the membership team. They can get you your login information so you can review the webinar. Thank you again to Cornerstone. Thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the next webinar.